Hey everyone, we are so excited to be here with one of Dentist Advisors' newest partners inside the partner program. Today I have Troy Eckard with us, and Troy is the chairman of the board for Eckard Enterprises. As I mentioned, one of our newest partners in the partner program. Eckard Enterprises, we're going to hear from Troy on their background in oil and gas and investing and investment opportunities. And from our side of the house as financial advisors, it's fun to bring in a partner that is diverse and with a lot of opportunity like Troy has to share today. Troy, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always honored to meet a new group of investors. I'm always honored to come into an organization that specializes in a very unique professional class such as dentists. Every single industry has their own nuances, and it's nice to know there's advisors out there that focus on that group because they do need to have great plans specific to what they're doing. So it's nice to come on, talk about what we do in energy. It may or may not reflect to some of your clients, some of your guests, but at the same time, it's a great piece of information that may open up some new avenues. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Great intro. We're going to let you take it from here and share with us the background, the history of Eckard, and fast forward all the way to today as it is so applicable to our clients.
Yeah, I can give you probably a 41-year career in about 4 minutes. So I started out in 1985. I was a young 20-year-old investment broker who was out looking for high net worth clients that wanted tax write-offs. And the only way to get tax write-offs at that time in the 1980s of significance was to invest in domestic oil and gas exploration. Go drill a well. The government rewards you with the big tax write-off. And so there was a big motivation to look at energy. The problem is oil and gas is a very complex business, and there's no single central source to go, where's the instruction manual? How does it work?
Mhm.
When you have an obscure investment asset class like that, it allows for a lot of robbers, cheats, thieves, crooks, and liars. And so I learned very quickly after 2 or 3 years as a kid, I didn't really like the people I worked for. They weren't bad people, they just weren't competent. They couldn't find oil in the bottom of a Jiffy Lube. So about 1990, I ended up getting an opportunity to start my own brokerage firm at a very young age of 25. And I had a firm called Eckard Investment Services. And I became a very large capital provider for a very successful oil company. But as things always happen, greed makes the worst come out in people. So we raised about $100 million, sold all those assets to Union Pacific Resources when they went public in 1995. And then the guy I represented looked like he was getting really too fat and happy. And my number one regard has always been protect the investor, do what's best for the investor. The investors will always take care of you. So I separated, started my own oil company in 1995. And I subsequently got rid of my brokerage firm in 2009 because I didn't have any brokers or salesmen. I was doing everything pretty much as an asset-based company. And so I put everything I was doing underneath Eckard Enterprises. And that company now is a family-owned energy business. My son works here. My son-in-law is my daughter. It's a family-run business. And what we do is we only work with accredited investors that are looking and seeking to have a contrarian view of not wanting to be just in stocks and bonds. They want to be in alternative assets, but they really want to be, in their view, and what I believe to be an aligned interest. How do I invest knowing that I'm not just simply the patsy carrying all the cost, and the person that's offering to me really has my best interest at heart? So I was able to take 40 years of my career and build Eckard Enterprises, and now we are the leader in oil and gas mineral rights acquisitions in Oklahoma and pretty much across the country. We're just shy of $1 billion of capital we put together in the last 5 years. We now own literally mineral acres under about 2 million gross acres. We have over 7,000 producing wells. I think we've had maybe one or two non-commercial wells out of 7,000 the last 6 years. So just tremendous success. We're cash flowing about $65 million a year in distributions out to our clients. And our client base is quite unique. It's made up of dentists, doctors, lawyers, geologists, engineers, farmers, ranchers, all those typical investors who are saying, I want some way to go from being rich to wealthy. Rich means you have a lot of money. Wealthy means your money makes you all the money you need to live your lifestyle. So we focus really on a very exclusive class of investors who are wanting to become wealthy and stop having to clean teeth, do surgeries, plow that crop. They want passive income, and this is the kind of asset class that we have. So that's what kind of Eckard is, all in about a 4-minute spiel.
Yeah, that is a very good introduction to it, Troy. well said. A lot captured there. And we like to hear that some of the most common or audience that you work with or clientele that you work with falls right into who we are. We work specifically with dentists across the country and have for 17 years. And so we have always found the opportunity in working with like-minded partners that understand their lifestyle. And like you said, opportunity to go from rich to wealthy and going at it via Eckard Enterprises is there's some opportunity there. So talk to us about your relationship with dentists and how that has grown over the last number of years.
Well, to be candid with you, I didn't have very many doctors or dentists up until about 5 years ago, and I had no idea that dentists in that particular sector of professionalism had created such a wealth of opportunity, not only in the income they generate, but in the value those practices had by selling out to DSOs and the ability to acquire additional dental practice. So it really is quite a unique industry that I have become aware of the last 5 or 6 years. And we've been able to watch the dentists that came to us saying, look, I just sold my practice, or I'm selling my practice, or I have income of X. I'd like to figure out how to substitute with passive income of Y. So we've been able to work with probably 300 or 400 dentists that have put in a lot of money with us. And the reason it works so well is many of them would look at it and say, if I can put income or capital from a sale into mineral rights that have zero liability, zero capital calls, I get a check every month. I got major oil companies doing all the work, taking all the risk, and all I get to check for the next 25 to 75 years. Wow, that's less teeth I got to clean. That's less braces I got to put in. And that's one step closer to getting out from behind that chair. I hear that constantly. I just don't want to be behind the chair. And for those that are still active, it's a great way to start cushioning that exit that may be 5 or 10 years out by saying, I know I'm successfully investing in long-term cash flowing assets that really aren't tied to the public market. I know we got 100% consumption in the country. So it really parallels with that single-minded entrepreneur, which is really what a dentist is. It's a single-minded entrepreneur running his own life and business. And I think it bodes well for the family, for the legacy and the transfer of those assets to the kids and the spouse. And so we have found that 1031 tax exchanges when they sell their building. We found that they can use their self-directed IRAs and invest directly because it's a like kind and it's a qualified self-directed IRA asset class. We realize that there's a lot of ways in which our assets really help that transfer from an active professional dentist into that position of looking at retirement, or at least a reduced role in that active practice.
So good. Talk to us about, as just staying right there, getting from not having to remain behind the chair, and as you start to work with Eckard, is there opportunity where the investment is kind of a set it and forget it, and like you mentioned, your team is doing all of the work, or what's the involvement like? You have become familiar with how busy the lifestyle of a dental practice is.
They seem to always have something in their hand. It's either dental equipment or a golf club. So I know they're really busy. So I just, or some have fishing poles, but I mean, pretty much it's either A or B, right? So what I've recognized is, and this is one thing that's really clear about investing with our company. When we propose an investor to participate with us, the first thing I recognize is no one wants to take on more responsibility. I don't need to go paint an apartment or figure out who's in my mobile home or figure out if the partnership's defunct or is the guy lying to me. I don't need the headache. I don't want an unexpected cash call. I don't want a bill. I don't want an expense. What I want to do is make a one-time investment. You do your job and execute and send me a check every month and leave me alone. And whether I retire or I'm working, I just don't want to learn your business. I want to know you know your business, and I want to ask enough questions to verify that you're legitimate and honest. But to be truthful with you, once I've invested, just send me a check every month and we'll say hi to each other a couple of times a year. That's really the mentality of most accredited investors, whether they're a dentist or a farmer, rancher, or engineer. So the nice thing about minerals, it's a really boring investment. Boring. You write a check, you buy producing minerals, you'll get a revenue distribution starting in 6 months after you make the check or the first initial investment. You get a check every month thereafter for 25 to 50 years, depending on how much oil and gas is sold and what it's sold for. We are trusting, like the mineral owner is a landlord, we're trusting that the tenant, Exxon, Chevron, the major oil companies that we bought minerals underneath, they've got the best talent, engineers, geologists, the best producers, the best traders. They're going to go drill the wells, pay all the costs, sell that oil and gas at the highest price, and give us our share every month, anywhere from 18 to 20% every month. So we are actually in traditional real estate. Minerals are real estate, but we get to have the most secure tenants in the world. Warren Buffett, who owns Oxy and Chevron, and they send us a check every month. They can't default, they can't file bankruptcy, and they cannot not pay us, because the term of the lease, when they lease the minerals from us, says if you ever don't pay us, the lease expires and we get it all back. Well, Exxon's not going to go drill $50 to $100 million worth of wells in our minerals and not pay us. I've had minerals for 40 years. I've never missed a payment. So what that does for a dentist is, all right, this year I'm cranking out, I'm working, I got my business growing. I made $1.5 million this year. I want to put 200,000 in minerals so I can make 10 to 20% return a year. That's number one. Number two, man, I don't like the taxes. So, Spencer, I'm saying I got too much in tax. What do I do? Well, you don't want to do a conservation easement, the number one IRS auditable item. You don't want to do all these fake Ponzi schemes and all these other types of things that are out there. So what is available is what the IRS gave us in 1986. They said, go drill a well. The difference is we were drilling 50 to 60% dry holes in the old days, drilling vertical wells like pin the tail on the donkey. Today, we have about a 99% success rate on every well that's drilled. So I now get a big tax write-off with about a 99% success. And with somebody like our company, we can generate 30 to 40% annualized return per year on the wells that are drilled. Wait a minute. Now this works. I'm a dentist. I'm churning out my client base. I got these repeat customers coming in. I now know what my income looks like in 5 years. 200,000 or 300,000 in minerals, 200,000 or 300,000 in drilling. I'm saving taxes. And now I can see this exit strategy really developing where I'll drill as long as I have high income, get the tax write-offs. When I don't need the income or write-offs anymore, I stop. And I 1031 that into minerals. And now I own mineral rights under major companies that'll last 25 to 75 years. So to be candid, not having dealt with dentists, previously to a large degree, now watching how the dentists have responded, it's quite remarkable how there's a perfect match for lawyers, engineers who work by the hour, anybody who has kind of a finite amount of time that's measured in dollars by time or patience. This investment works because now you can go sit on the beach in Cayman Islands for a week and go, I got 7,000 wells making me money 24/7 with the biggest oil companies in the world monitoring it. And they don't call me for a headache or cash calls or problems. I just get a check.
Yeah.
This investment, Spencer, did not exist 7 years ago. Average investors like us could not buy it. The major private equity were running the game. They bought all they can handle. Now the gate's wide open, and there's literally a couple 100 million acres of minerals in the U.S. we can buy. But we just happen to do it from a very surgical perspective. We're very specific, our model specific, our directive specific, and it's perfect match. Just like they say, the hand and the glove match perfectly for dentists and investors like that kind of category.
That's so well said. You mentioned the average investor, and for the most part, I think that's what we would be discussing or sharing with all of our clients today. And therefore the question would be, as far as getting started, like it's new, like you mentioned, this was not available 7 years ago, and therefore the thought process of this is a little bit different. Maybe it's makes you a little bit nervous because it's just because it's different and it's your investment. And so can you get to know it, if you will, a little bit by not going all in, but it allows you to feel comfortable getting started?
Well, the way I've looked at it for 40 years is that, first off, I don't trust anybody, including the newspaper kid that wants $25. I'm assuming he's not going to give me the paper. He's going to go do crack cocaine in the back alley. So I don't trust anybody. So I've always taken the position that you earn trust, you're not given trust. And so the way you earn it is by action. So the first thing we did as a company 5 years ago, we built, at a high expense to us, we built the first online alternative asset app you can sign into, and you have 24 hours access to all your wells, all your minerals, all your deeds, all your titles, and every well, all 7,000 wells. So the first thing anybody should do when they go to our website at Eckard Enterprises is sign up for Eckard Insights, our app. You can sign in as a guest and you'll see all the training videos. I do thousands of hours of videos about every topic you can think of, because my view is the smarter I make my clients, the smarter I make you as an investor, you'll never invest with anybody else, because I've set the bar so high in far as transparency and due diligence. Having had a background with my own FINRA licensed firm for almost 22 years, I was always doing due diligence on all kinds of assets coming out of Wall Street and everywhere else. So I'm really a major proponent of due diligence, transparency. I'm blunt as you've ever met. Like I told you earlier, I got Tourette syndrome. What I say just comes out and it is what it is. But that being said, that's why I actually have a principal of a brokerage firm that invests with me. I currently have a president of an oil company that invests with me. I have geologists. I have Exxon lawyers that invest with me, because they're like, we don't know anybody else that gives us even remotely the amount of disclosure and due diligence. So the learning process is a comfort process, which says, all right, preponderance of what Troy says, the evidence clearly indicates owning minerals and working interest makes incredible sense. The guy's been around since 1985. He's never been sued for any financial wrongdoing, has no regulatory violations. This guy runs an unbelievable shop. Our customer service is Ritz-Carlton, top of the line, first class service. And he charges me one-time fee to buy the minerals, and he does all the back office. Now, what's wrong with this plan? There's nothing wrong with it. Troy's been doing it for 40 years, and I built a phenomenal team here. But what we recognize is our clients, your dentist, those people that invest with us, that's our bank. If you treat your banker right, you'll always have access to capital. If you don't treat them right, you don't have any bank. So what we've done is focused on our bankers, which we call partners, our investors, and we make sure that they get first-class service, full transparency, access, and we never miss a distribution. We never miss getting our checks out. We never do not have full transparency, because why? The more I train them, the more I tell them, the more their comfort level is, and that's why we're nearing almost $1 billion of capital raised in the last 5 years.
Man, that is so awesome. So where do we see it going from here, Troy? It sounds the presentation of Eckard Enterprises to us has been a very good learning experience. It's also been great to get to know your team and hear the positive experiences and so forth. Talk to us about the forecast of what your business is doing and where the investors see this going over the next 7 years, which was not available these 7 years ago.
Yep. And in essence of time, because I want to be respectful of the limited time you have, I'll just tell you very simply, here's our vision. With all the aggregation and the M&A that occurred in the last 18 months with Exxon buying out Pioneer, it's only the second time in my 41-year career where the majors bought out the other majors. You know, when Exxon bought out Mobil and Texaco was gobbled up by Chevron. Marathon's no longer here. It's being bought out, right? You've got major companies like Pioneer gone, Endeavor gone. So what's happened is, because of the administration, not only in this presidency, but in the previous 2 or 3 presidencies, there's been a real pullback on capital and liquidity to the oil and gas industry. So we kind of had to be big boys and girls and live off our own cash flow. Banks won't lend to us. Investors don't want to buy because it's fossil fuel. It's not green energy. So what that's done in turn, it has killed the food chain. And the food chain normally is private equity goes in and does these startups, $100, $200 million companies. They grow, they buy, they drill, they grow, they buy, they drill. They get up to $1 or $2, $3, $4 billion, and they're bought out by a major. We don't have any food chain supply the last 4 years. There's been no private equity. So what I foresee is that Eckard this year is going to do just under $300 million in capital that we have from our partners this year. Next year, I think we'll do $500 million to $750 million next year. Half of that will be for drilling, because I would believe there's going to be heavy taxes, whether Trump's in office or Harris. I also believe the other half will be in minerals, because there's nobody buying. We're getting minerals at 25% lower cost than we did last year. Vision forward, the green energy deal is failing. Doesn't make economic sense. There's been a pullback on DEI. And reality is now setting in, which is what the true economics are of the cost of energy. AI is going to drive utility cost up and utility demand up by another 30%. So without all these statistics, here's where we're going. We think we'll provide a great opportunity in 7 to 10 years. We'll be the single largest holder of producing wells, both in mineral rights and working interest, with hundreds, if not thousands of locations. And we'll be the next prettiest girl at the dance in about 7 to 10 years. Where we get a knock at the door and somebody's going to say, Eckard and Eckard Partners, you guys own $3, $4, $5 billion in assets. How about an offer of 10 or 12 or $15 billion for what you own? And the answer is going to be, I don't know. We don't own it all. We'll ask our individual doctors and dentists and lawyers and farmers and say, here's our offer. You want to sell some, part, or all? And each partner will get to elect because you own it yourself. But collectively, what I envision is we may say, well, we'll sell you a third of the company at a $10 million value. We'll take that 3.3 billion. Thank you for the money back. And we still own 2/3 free and clear, and go do it again. It's really a long enough runway. We could do this for the next 20 to 30 years because there's that much opportunity in these shale plays. It truly allows financial planning, estate planning, legacy transfer, tax mitigation, all this combined with consistent monthly income. I mean, at 60 years old, the end of my career, when I'm looking at 40 years of being in this business, never would I imagine we'd have the caliber wells, 99% success rate, and really uncontested, wide open space to go buy premium tier 1 assets. Never in my life did I think we'd have it. We do. So I'm a very happy old man at this point, but I'm excited about inviting new partners to join us, because if we had another 250 million this year, we could have bought some premium assets, but our poor clients, 2,000 of them, have put in almost $300 million this year. So they're definitely all just chugging along, keeping up with us. But that's why it's kind of exciting to find out who else we can introduce to this industry. Wow.
That is so cool, Troy. I think that is just perfect right there. So let me wrap this up by saying, you've heard all of the opportunities and the background of Eckard Enterprises. Eckard Enterprises is one of our partners in the partner program here at Dentist Advisors. We have a lot more content that we are working on with Eckard Enterprises via webinar, via Facebook Live, and we have on the calendar to be presenting in cities around the country. So we are just really excited for the educational opportunities and insights that we're able to put together with Eckard. So, and what an awesome opportunity to have Troy Eckard on with us to kick this off. And for those of you watching this also lives on our dentistadvisors.com site. And that's also where we will host all of the additional materials that we will do from an educational standpoint with Eckard along the way. So Troy, thank you so much for your time. This has been super insightful and just a pleasure to talk with you.
I'm honored, and thanks again for having me. I look forward to helping educate your clients, your members, and those that are interested in this space, because quite frankly, it's underestimated the value of it. It's misunderstood, but that's why we're here, to educate and inform and make them aware of it. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Troy.